Alright, we're back in the car again. So, I was doing a how-to video up in my room and I just had some tremendous creator's block. So I had to put that down for now. I'm going to gather my thoughts, write some more things down, and reapproach tomorrow. That being said, we're going to do another story. So this one's about a giant sand tiger I caught in July of 2019. I recently posted about it on my Instagram because this shark stuck out amongst all the other ones. There's a few of them that do, but this is one of those. So this one was a giant, to give a little background, all of 9.5 feet long. I remember when I brought it up on the sand, my hands around the tip of its tail right before, it breaks off into the fin, they couldn't touch, and that's normally not the case. Having something like this thick was humbling, especially solo, alone. That's what I did, you have to understand. I sharked by myself for about 2.5 years. I only recently started bringing guys with me, and at first it really bothered me. It's very hard to be used to doing something one way for so long, running as a self-sufficient machine, and then having to incorporate 2 other people. Now, there's a lot of benefits with that, having other hands with you, but sometimes it takes a lot of mental rearranging to bring other guys into the picture. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So this sand tiger, we start off, I should say, start off the beginning of this trip. I get my ice, I get my bunker, I pack it up in the cooler real tight, and want to keep that fresh. Throw some salt on it, keep everything icy, fresh, cold. I had my oil in the car, allegedly. And we head down to the beach that night. So I want to fish about 2.5 hours after this tide, so I get there about an hour before my prime time. I set everything up, I put my baits out, and we're just waiting. I'm really frustrated at this point because I've had a hard 3 weeks. I've been just trying to crush it and nothing was happening. I was fishing since the middle of May, and we had a bunch of these, someone called them silkies, these type of dog sharks. I don't even know what they are, but they're a big pain in the ass, that's what they are. So we had those for a while, and then we got to mid-June, and I had a really big pickup. I just shredded a piece of bunker and dumped the reel real good, and then that fish dropped it. So that was our first indication of a big shark being around. Guys were catching brown sharks and stuff by this time over to the west more, by like Field 6, by like Jones, all that, but I was not interested in that. I had bigger things on my mind. So after weeks of this frustration, the bad juju is really trying to set into my brain, but I can't let that happen. I have to keep my eyes on the prize, which I'm doing. I know there's a sea monster out there and I'm gonna get him, and this night it happened. It picked up the bait like any other shark would. When the line is tight to the sinker and the stand spike, the rod's in almost like a arch. Line's perfectly straight and everything is tight. But when the shark picks up the bait, he relieves the pressure and the rod lifts up like, and then you see the line go slack. That's your key to pick up the rod and point it and get ready to work with this fish. So this fish does that. I pick up the rod, I point it at him, he starts going. I'm using a Saragossa 8000 and I loosen up the drag and he just goes zzz, he starts moving. Now I want him to eat this thing. I don't want him to spit it. I've lost too many fish in my life. I know that this is a big one, and I have every mistake I've ever made in the back of my head just ringing. So he's going, and I'm counting in my head. I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just counting to whatever, wanting him to eat this thing, swallow it, and it out, and then I'm gonna set the hook. So I finally get ready, and I lock down the drag, and my GSB just bends and bends and bends till it's almost straight. The reel seat's pretty much got a bend in it, and this Saragossa is just taking these initial mean runs of like, because I have the drag locked for that hook set. I want to get that thing buried in there. So this fish doesn't really have the torque to take off and dump this reel yet, but he's just massive that he's just taking these drag rips very close to me with no momentum behind him. But once he does get some wind behind him, that's a different story entirely. I'm sorry about that. So this fish turns around and he just starts steaming my reel and steaming my reel. And every time I get a headway of like 50, 60 yards on him, he just does not comply. He turns right back around and he keeps swimming. This happened, I don't know, I really don't remember the amount of times, but quite a few times where we were almost playing tug of war, where I'd get this fish close to me, he'd swim away, close to the beach, he'd swim away. And my Saragossa was so hot, it was incredible. If I could take a pause here and talk about the post that I put up. There's a quote in there by this guy, Nicky, I knew. I met him working at this tackle store I was at. He has a charter, it's actually No Time, but Nicky told me one time that every shark has a different personality. And I remember, like some Miyagi type crap, I'm on the beach and I hear Nicky in my head saying, every shark has its own personality. You don't know if they're big or small or whatever. They all fight different. Because I didn't know what this thing was. I'm telling you it's a sand tiger now because I know what happened. But before that, I had no idea. It was tripping me up. You have to understand, more often than not, these sand tigers, they fight, but they're a little sluggish. They'll take runs, but they'll slow down. They don't burn your reel like a mako would. So that was throwing me off. I'm like, okay, something of this size has to be a sand tiger, because, I mean, we don't have any bull sharks or tiger sharks or anything crazy like that here. It could be a brown shark, but I'm feeling the tail. If you guys know what I'm talking about, when you feel a big shark or a big fish swimming, you could feel those tail swipes, and that was no brown shark behind that, let me tell you. That was a bigger motor. But I'm open to anything. So I'm kind of keeping it in the ether as to what this thing is. I don't really know. But a massive sand tiger was almost out of my thought. Back to the story. So I get some headway on this fish, and I head down the beach, because, you know, once these fish, they get past a couple of the bars, the last bar on the beach, they have this period of wash between the shore where they could run it like a racetrack. And that's what they'll do. They get in that current and they run the beach, and if you're smart, you run with them, because why try to fight them? You're not going to win. So just roll with them. Get the line back on the reel, reel, which is what I was doing, and you get uptight with them. Now you got to remember, again, I'm by myself, so I have to have my sand spike in my hand, run with this thing, because the only way I'm going to land this fish is by driving the sand spike in the ground really fast, throwing my rod in there, running down to the water, grabbing this fish by the tail, bringing him up into the shallow wash, de-hooking him, cutting the hook, whatever I have to do, and sending him on his way. So I'm running like an idiot, and I finally get up to this fish. He's rolling right, it's past the last bar, but it almost looks like a sandbar. It's a beach trough, that's the word. He's rolling right by the beach trough, and he's trying to get some momentum to get back in the water. Now I'm fighting him. I have to make a decision at this point. Do I stay up by my spike because I almost got him, or do I grab it, run down to the water, and reapproach the situation? So I took a gamble that ended up working out. I battened down the hatches, dug my heels in, so to say, and just cranked down and lifted it, held the spool, and just did that a couple times, and a good wave came in and he rolled him. And you could actually hear on the video, I'm like, up, he's up, or whatever I said. And at that moment, threw the rod in the spike, ran down there, grabbed the fish, which brings us to the beginning of the story, what I told you about the tail being that thick. At that moment, I truly realized how big this fish was. I mean, it rolled on its side, and the thickness of it was, I don't even know what it was. It was just, it was giant. I had never landed a shark this big by myself, really at all. I think at the time it was my PB, maybe second. That may have gotten knocked off this year by the other one, but I don't know. I don't know if it did, because that one, as far as how many feet, this one still wins. It was much longer than the one we got in October, but I don't know if it was heavier. It had to have been, though. Who the fuck knows? I gotta take that out. Who knows? Really cool thing about this story too, as I was fighting the shark, and I'm gonna throw a bunch of these clips in here, you know, because I really want you to see this. I was wearing a Galaxy watch that's, I think, in my car, actually. Well, we're not gonna get it out here to show you, but I was wearing this Galaxy watch, and it started going off, flashing, saying like, good workout, good job, Chris, whatever it was saying. It was thinking I was working out, because my heart rate was going so much, because I knew there was a big fish that I had on, like, you know, some personal record crushing fish. So my heart's beating out of my chest, my blood's probably like hot as hell, and my watch thinks I'm at the gym going for a run. It was very funny. So that's another thing that sticks out about it. But yeah, Just a totally cool giant fish story that gave me a run for my money, and this is one that tested all of my skill and all my experience. And I don't mean that in a braggadocious way. It means everything that I ever learned or knew about shark fishing, about landing these sharks, came into play that night. I had to rely a lot on the basics. It was a lot of drag play, it was a lot of luck, because you have to understand that throughout this process I'm adjusting my drag. Now a lot of guys, they don't like that, and I'd agree. I guess if you're fighting, you know, like a striped bass or a game fish or something, I really wouldn't adjust your drag unless you have to. But this situation I do, because I have to lock that hook down to set, lock that drag down to set that hook, and then I'm fighting them and I have to back down a little bit. And then once I get him in past the sandbars, I want to give him a little more room to play, because if he turns around and runs, I don't need anything bad happening. I don't need him to get knocked over by a wave and roll on this braid and pop me. So I'd rather just let him run. So I'll give him that extra space, extra drag, so to say, and let him do his thing if he's got to. But then once you get him closer to the beach, past to like that second bar, between the second and the first bar, I'm gonna hit him heavy again, because at that point I want to just get him as close to me as I can. This is the point where I'm gonna put the absolute heat on him and try to get him to that first bar. Maybe even tire him out. If I could fight him between that first and second bar, I'll do that all day. I win, because I got him right where I want him. If I tire him out there, I kind of win, because then I can hustle him over that last bar, bring him into almost where the wash is, then get him into the wash and deal with him the way I have to. So I found that different pounds of drag kind of helped me out here, because as far as spinning tackle goes, when you're fishing like a 130 on the beach, crank, 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 there he is. Obviously, down south, bigger sharks, different thing, but I'm talking spinning tackle here, for those of you that didn't know. This was on a Lamaglass GSB 132 1M with a Shimano Saragosa 8000 and 50-pound Suffolk braid, using the rigs that we spoke about in the earlier videos. I'm just chattering right now. Frankly, I kind of like this. What did I leave out about that shark? Anything? Released just fine? But that, like I said, one of many. But I'll tell you, that shark is one of the sharks that I kept the rigs for. I have a little book in my house full of chewed up leaders from all these different sharks over the years that stuck out. I keep them anyway, usually, if I have them, just as like a general record, but in this particular book goes the ones that I want to remember. There we go. That's a nice fish. Guys, big old sand tiger. I don't want to keep him. I hope you liked that story. Just another quick one I shot off from my head that I thought was pretty cool. I know we went a bunch of different directions with that, but bear with me, my mind goes weird places. Anyway, I like talking fishing with you guys. This is always fun to do, and I'm gonna get that how-to video tied up in the morning. Catch you guys later. Take care.